E taku whānau, e te kuiamā, e te koromā, e te whānau o Mainfreight. Nau mai, haere mai, whakatau mai. Ladies and gentlemen, shareholders, good afternoon and welcome. My name's Bruce Plested. I have much pleasure in opening this 26th annual meeting of Mainfreight Limited. I can confirm that a quorum of shareholders is present. Can you put your hand up if you can hear me? Sounds okay? Good. I can confirm that a quorum of shareholders is present. Before commencing the business of the meeting, I've been asked to cover some matters of housekeeping. In the case of an emergency, please Please leave by the nearest exit. Safe exit is directed by Eden Park staff or security and gather at the assembly point on Ramers Avenue. Please do not run or attempt to use the lifts. Toilets are located in both the eastern and western ends pre-function areas. Eden Park is a non-smoking venue. Please be considerate of others and ensure you wash your hands and use the sanitizer provided. Lastly, please ensure your mobile phone is switched to silent. Introduction to directors. I'd now like to introduce the directors to you. On my far left are Simon Cotter and Don Braid. On my far right are Brian Mogridge, Kate Parsons and Richard Prebble. Before attending to the formal business of the meeting, I'd like to share some of my recent thoughts and reflect on the company's past performances. I'll then ask our Managing Director, Don Braid, to address the meeting. The year ended March 2021 produced the continuation of 11 consecutive years of record results. If you can't remember these records, Don's going to show them to you on a graphic. But record after-tax profits up 29 million to 188 million. Global sales increased by 449 million to 3.5 billion. This means we're now doing sales of 68 million per week. Income tax payable for the year increased by 16 million to 74 million. The discretionary bonus payable to our worldwide team increased by 17 million to 44 million. Our 2021 annual dividend to shareholders increased by 16 million to 75 million. We increased our number of branches worldwide from 282 to 297, with our presence still in 26 countries. Climate change and the COVID-19 pandemic are creating huge challenges for the world, further complicated with growing aggression between some of the biggest countries. Closer to home, with all our best efforts in education, only some 60% of children are regularly attending school. 60%. In the past 20 years, we've dropped from being near the top of the world in reading and maths to now being close to the bottom rung. This is and will be a great catastrophe for New Zealand if we are unable to produce the next generations of inventors, scientists, IT professionals, doctors, researchers, builders, engineers, farmers and entrepreneurs. We are seeing reports daily in the media of a significant shortage of skilled workers, but also what are described as unskilled workers. Overseas countries have been supplying these additional people to our workforce temporarily, and we've grabbed them because they have skills and work attitudes and behaviour far superior to what we are producing in New Zealand. If we do not reverse our declining allegiance to better and better education, over the next 25 years, we risk becoming another rogue state run by crime, gangs, corruption, already endemic in a number of small countries which do not value or promote education. We in New Zealand can do only so much to allay the bombast between the big and powerful countries, but we can and must succeed in massively increasing New Zealand's commitment to attainment in education. In closing, we acknowledge that it has been a very difficult year, particularly in the front line of our operations and in countries where the coronavirus was not as well contained as here in New Zealand. Our thoughts and gratitude go to our global team for the outstanding performance in succeeding against so many difficulties. We also acknowledge that at times our service levels were not up to the standard we are used to. We sincerely thank our many customers for their understanding and continued allegiance. We would also repeat, as at our last AGM, that deep in our culture is a strength to challenge and overcome whatever circumstances are put in front of us. We are used to it, we enjoy it, and it's why we come to work. Fellow shareholders, I now ask our Group Managing Director, Don Braid, to give his presentation.
Afternoon. I guess this is working. Yeah, great. Just with a little bit of Mainfreight magic, we'll get those numbers back up on the board. As Bruce has said, we've increased our revenues to nearly 3.5 billion, and our profit before tax is up 27% to 262 million. Net surplus after tax at 188 million. It looks far better in writing than it does just talking about it. We've got 9,240 team members, 609 up. In May last year, we sat around the boardroom in Auckland here worrying about any people being made redundant. And the one thing we said was, let's not make anybody redundant. We got through a year and had to add another 609. I think the latest numbers, that's up by about another 50, such as the amount of freight that we're handling. We're only still in 26 countries. It takes a lot to get to another country. There's not too many passenger planes flying these days, and it means that we can't get there. So until such time as we do get there, just continue to think of us as 26, and as we get the opportunities to get to those other countries, there are plenty that we want to be in. The bonus was nearly 44 million. Bruce and I have just finished signing every single remittance advice, because we can't pay in cheques anymore, to 5,243 people across the world. And for us, that's a really, really proud moment. And some of those sizes of those bonuses are just delightful. And hopefully those people that are getting those are very pleased. And for our shareholders, we lifted that dividend to 75 cents. That's up 16 cents. So for those of you that have been with us for some time, thank you. And a small reward on the back of what our teams are doing. Earnings per share up 27% to 187. If you didn't think we've got a runway, and if you're investing in us for that runway, as I think that you should be, this slide tells it all. This is where we are in the world. And you can see the revenue offshore 76%, and our profit offshore is now 62.7%. And the New Zealand guys, who some of them are sitting here in the room, they haven't finished with New Zealand yet. So there's plenty of runway, and we've only just got started offshore. We're only just starting to crack it in some of these countries. That's the potential that we've got in this business. So, for the analysts that are in the room, we thought we'd give you a trading update. They're a bit critical that we didn't give them one before the year end. So here it is. This is the last 17 weeks. And it's based on our weeklies, so it is an estimate, but those weeklies are pretty accurate. And as you can see, our revenues across all of the countries for these first 17 weeks of the year is up 41% to 1.6 billion. Our teams are pretty busy. From a profit before tax level, it's up 97%. Now, I'm sure the analysts in the room will understand, but it was a pretty difficult year at this time last year because of the COVID lockdowns. So we're comparing, probably a full trading year with increased patronage of our services. But the performance across the business has been very good. Just to break that down across the three core products, transport, warehousing, and air and ocean. And our transport businesses around the world, profits up 65%, and our warehousing business up 49%, and our air and ocean business up 184%. Now, in part, that's because of this congested supply chains that we're dealing with around the world. But out of that congestion, some of those large competitors of ours are looking to us, the customers of those large competitors are looking to us to try and find them solutions. And that's where we're gaining more market share. So just thinking about the impacts on those results for the total company, we shouldn't underestimate the inflated air and ocean shipping rates that are out there. The increases are quite large, probably 4 to 5 times what people were paying a year ago, pre-COVID. We think that might last well into 2022, so it should be consistent for the next 12 months or so. And it's across all trade lanes. It's not just to New Zealand. And in fact, the worst trade lane is probably what we call the Trans-Pacific eastbound from China into America. However, for us, we're picking up market share, and we've got that increased consumer demand all being increased through government stimulus and people not being able to travel. So those opportunities are flowing into freight for us. Our warehousing development, we've got new customers, which means new and larger facilities. Here in Auckland, 460,000 square feet or 46,000 square metres. In Sydney, we're about to open 550,000 square feet. In Dallas, we've just moved into 500,000 square feet, about to do the same in Pennsylvania and the same in Toronto. The opportunities are coming at us with bigger customers needing bigger facilities. In our transport businesses all around the world, freight volume has increased. That's consumer demand and market share that our guys are being able to take from the marketplace. Keep reminding that analyst community about the prior period being somewhat a little tough. But I think we've performed okay in these last 6 months, these last 17 weeks. It's satisfactory, I guess. If we were to look at just a couple of little points relative to each of the regions. In New Zealand, we continue to fatten the network. In a couple of slides, I'll show you how many facilities and so forth that we've got underway. Those new sites are key to improving our services. We weren't happy with what we did this time last year and into Christmas. It got really busy and our service wasn't as good as what we wanted. So we're working really hard to have better facilities and provide a far better service than what we did. And some of the magic things that our air and ocean teams are doing to provide solutions for our customers. In Australia, we're getting to all the regions, into country New South Wales, into country Victoria, into far north Queensland. It's giving us an advantage, and those big warehouses that we've got underway in Sydney and in Melbourne. In Asia, we've got Southeast Asia providing us with increased profitability, particularly in Thailand, particularly in Vietnam and Singapore. In Europe, we've got increased transport volumes, We need to intensify the network there and are trying really hard to do that. We've just opened 3 new branches in Romania, another 2 branches in Poland, and we're trying to find suitable facilities to open 2 more branches in the Netherlands. And in America, the air and ocean contribution is helping out immensely. They're doing a really good job. And transport and warehousing have still got a bit of work to do to get the sort of results that are possible for us in the United States. In terms of capital expenditure, because of COVID, at the same time that we were sitting around that board table in May of last year, not wanting to make anybody redundant, we also cut down our capital expenditure. In hindsight, we probably shouldn't have done that. We needed to spend the money to keep building the network. But such as it was, that was a decision we took. What it does mean that in the next 2 years, we're likely to spend about 430 odd million on new facilities across the network. That's aside from any new leases that we're bringing to the table. And if we think about that, as you can see, here in New Zealand, what have they got? 23 plus 27 sites underway for construction and development. In Australia, 2 new buildings, one in Adelaide, one in Melbourne, and 4 new leases. In the Americas, 3 new leases, which are all warehouses. In Europe, some new buildings and 5 new leases for that network intensification that we're talking about. And in Asia, we're starting to get the warehousing underway, which we haven't really done to any stage like we've got elsewhere. That's about intensifying the network. That's about fattening the network for us to be closer to our customers and to make sure that we're as efficient as we can across the network for those customers in terms of cost and in terms of getting product to the retail space. We shouldn't underestimate why we've done so well. And it's about our customers. And we do love our customers. They mean a lot to us. It's probably top of mind every day in what we do. But the categories that our customers trade in have been really important during these last 12 months. Food, beverage, retail, DIY, medical and healthcare, beverage, chemicals, makes up 64% of our top 1,000 customers, which is about 2.2 billion in sales. Consumer demand, their customers demanding more from them, is what has helped this business. In terms of sustainability, you've seen the new electric truck sitting outside. First day on the road today, just for you guys. But that will work itself around Auckland with another couple. And then one in Hamilton, and we've got one in Christchurch underway. And in Australia, we hope to have a couple in each of those cities. Now, they're just trials. 152 kilometres, they say, that we'll get out of that vehicle, running up and down Queen Street with all the lights and the traffic that we've got there. I'm not too sure that we'll get that many kilometres, but it's a start. And it's getting us underway of where we want to be. We are considering other fuel options if they're available to us. I don't think hydrogen's here anytime soon, but it might come, and we'll consider it when we're ready. Electric forklifts in as many facilities as we possibly can get. We've been recycling waste for a long time. We've been saying that to you all. But, you know, some of our guys have put together special machines to compress the polystyrene that we get, particularly in our Mainfreight to home business here in Auckland. You know, we're trying really hard to lower our footprint on this world in terms of our carbon. We'll have carbon usage by consignment note for each of our customers by the end of the year. So the customer will be able to tell us that if they want to change the mode of transport to reduce their carbon footprint. Whether they do for the change of rate structure remains to be seen. But we already know that in our facilities that we've got at Westney Road that are powered by solar power, we've got customers saying to their customers that this product has come from a far more friendlier, carbon neutral facility. So it's what we're doing for our customers, helping them sell their situation with carbon better to their customers. You know, our people here in Auckland, as an example, are recycling all their vegetables out of the gardens and growing vegetables on the back of the worm farm that they feed, and then feeding that back to the team in the facility. That's their initiative. That's how they feel about it. And I don't think you'll see us buying pine trees to offset our carbon footprint. It's a bit of bullshit, with all due respect. You know, it's not going to change habits. It's not going to change the way we have to behave in this world. We're putting our capital into electric forklifts, into electric trucks, into solar power for our facilities. Our capital, your capital, for this company to lighten its footprint on the planet. Not buying pine trees down the road. We reduced our emissions by 15% over this last year. Funny year, I get that, but at least we're on our way. Our footprint, we're trying to reduce it. Just to give you an update on the global supply chain status, probably since I've been here in the last half an hour to an hour, people have all been saying how congested supply chain is, how much there are delays of products that are coming in, and how frustrating that is. That will be around for some time to come. And I know here in Auckland, we'd just love to blame the ports of Auckland for all the problems. But frankly, every port, major port, container port in the world is congested. At the last count last week, there was 300 ships waiting to berth at ports all around the world. So it's not just Auckland. It is an issue. And really it's an issue of shipping space, consumer demand, containers. There's not enough containers, and if there is, they're all in the wrong places. Port rotations, the shipping companies are having to change those port rotations or have what they call blank sailings. And of course, air freight space is limited because there's no passenger planes flying. So it's all come together as this supply chain congestion. And our focus is really to try and make that better for our customers. Trying to give them advice, getting our people to do all sorts of things to make sure that we can deliver for our customers. Now, some of that has been our relationships with shipping lines, where we have shaken hands. Not signed a bit of paper, but shaken hands and formed a relationship with them. Smaller shipping lines that we can trust, we've worked with them. Bulk space agreements, we've chartered some ships. Our teams have stood that up and made it work on behalf of our customers. And really, the amount of work that's gone in for that to occur has been tremendous, but we've moved freight around the world for our customers. Over the COVID year, we did 46 aircraft charters. And it's our network that made that happen. If it wasn't Mainfreight in Shanghai, I don't think some of those planes would have been loaded. The Mainfreight team in Shanghai were looking after the Mainfreight team in Auckland to make sure that those planes were loaded, to make sure that freight was on the tarmac ready to go, because if it wasn't, Shanghai Airport Control turned those planes around and sent them away empty. And that occurred to a lot of freight forwarders. I think we didn't miss one. Great effort by our people. Our ability to manage LCL shipments. So we're saying to our customers, if you can't move it by FCL, we've got the ability to load the freight small amounts more often, providing them with opportunity to actually get freight moving. And as I've said before, expect those shortages in the supply chain and the pricing situation to hang around for at least another year. We'll take advantage of it for our customers wherever we can, but this congestion will hang around. So the priorities and actions for us, you know, it's a strong focus with our customers to make sure we can provide those solutions. As you heard from Bruce, some of our services weren't as good as our expectation last year. We were looking to improve that. New facilities, our team have been working with each of the branches, making sure, particularly October through to December, that we'll be on top of that freight delivery for our customers. Manage cost structures as we manage the growth. We just don't want to add more people for the sake of it. We want to make sure that we're as efficient as we possibly can be. This week, Tuesday, 82 people vaccinated at the Mainfreight vaccination site. another 102 or 104 set up for Friday, and then there's another 600 odd for next week here in Auckland, as a test for the government to do workplace vaccinations. We pushed our way in the door. In some respects, our team might have kicked the door down. And it's extremely bureaucratic, extremely frustrating for our people. But we're doing it for our people and their families because we believe we've got a responsibility to do that for them and for New Zealand. Hopefully, other businesses will learn from our lessons and the hard work that our team, some of them are here today, and the hard work that they've put in to make this vaccination trial work. And a really strong focus on sales for us is our key strategy for growth. Not here just to buy any transport business, albeit we could have bought some pretty broken down ones over the last 12 months. Not for us. We've got great organic growth going on. We can control that, look after it, love the customers. That's all we need to do. Seems to be still raging around the marketplace about corporate governance. So it's a topic of discussion for us too. Don't think that it's not. Board membership and succession is front of mind. We keep talking about it. We keep looking for the right people. We're just not going to look for anybody, particularly a bunch of professional directors with 10 or 12 directorships under their belt thinking they're experts that they can turn up every Friday and tick the box. That's not what these people do. We want the right directors on our board table. We took a long time to find Kate Parsons, and look how that's worked out. Fantastically well for us. It'll take us some time to find the next ones, but they'll be the right directors for Mainfreight and our Mainfreight shareholders. I'm not going to make convenient decisions just to satisfy some tick in the box. It's not who we are. Tenure and experience is really important to us. It's really important to us at the operating level. We operate such that our people have got a career for a long time to come. We've got people in this room that have been with us for 30 and 40 years. So if we kick the directors out every 5 years, what does that say to the people that are working for us? Some rules are just bloody stupid. So we continue to be really optimistic and confident about what we've got in front of us because of the people that we've got. We're conscious of this supply chain congestion and we'll do whatever we can, including the pricing, to look after those customers for the long term. That network intensity, we'll continue to invest in that, continue to invest in really good facilities so that our people can deliver great service. And we know that our people make the difference. They are the difference. They are the people that have produced those results, and we want to make sure we look after them. Come tiptoe through the tulips with us. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Don. An extraordinary year, and the usual presentation from Don, who says it as it is. Right, the formal business, the annual report. The first formal item on the agenda is to receive and consider the annual report of the company for the year ended 31st of March 2021, including the financial statements for that year and the directors' and auditors' reports to shareholders. These documents have been circulated to all shareholders, and further copies are available now if anyone should require one. They were there at the front door. No resolution is required. However, the floor is open if anybody would like to discuss any aspect of the annual report. Microphones are available, and please state your name for the record if there is any discussion. Where's Coralie Van Camp? Is she not here?
In your magazine, from Mainfreight magazine. My Russian daughter-in-law in Sydney was delighted to see a photograph of the Mainfreight van outside. I think it might have been that wonderful museum in St. Petersburg where she comes from. So I sent her a photo of it, and it's amazing how far you've got, and congratulations. Great result.
Thank you, Coralie. That's great.
Hi, Alan Best. Congratulations too from me, and I'm sure from many others. I was going to ask you about the revenue target at 4 billion, but I don't think I need to after the comments of our Managing Director. But there's a couple of little things on the annual report that I was interested in. You've got a target to develop the perishables and pharmaceutical capacity, and that seems very sensible. What approvals are required, and what sort of in-depth development is required in that area to achieve your aims? And the second question is on IT. In that part of the report, you did mention that you have 67.5 million IT development of platforms, and just a bit further on you said there's about 18 million on capital development in the IT. Can you just give us a bit of an outline what's proposed there?
Probably not. I'll call on... Do you want to answer that, Don?
Yeah, sure. Is this all good? Thanks, Alan. To become capable to move pharmaceuticals, you need to be GDP accredited, and all our facilities around the world are currently being accredited. Some have been completed, others are still to occur. We have some pharmaceutical business, and that business that we won, we could see opportunity. There's one particular large competitor that thinks they own that space. It's a nice little challenge for us, and so we'll go after that sector over time. Perishables, we are very strong in perishables from New Zealand and developing out of Australia, and we can see the opportunities with perishables in the rest of the network. So we're likely to try and establish a perishable network around the world so that each country is either receiving or sending perishable product. That could be horticultural, fish, meat, flowers, etc. Avocados right now are about to start, which are really good for us. And in terms of IT, we continue to spend money on IT. I think we're a bit bigger than IBM at the moment, but I think you might have heard me say that before. But our guys, one, making sure our platforms are up to speed and doing the job. Two, that our hardware is up to scratch. We're just replacing a lot of hardware right now. We had to make that decision in June rather than October because of the shortages of semiconductors. And of course, we're spending money on cybersecurity, and we probably don't want to shout from the rooftops about what we do in that regard because that provides a challenge to the people that wear the black hats. But you know, we really are looking to make sure that our IT systems are capable for what we've got to do in the future. And they don't think we spend enough, by the way.
Hello, David Lee. Do you, in regard to the 5-year roadmap in your annual report, do you anticipate funding that with additional capital or just with cash and debt?
I think at this point, and Don might want to comment on that too, but we don't have any intention really of increasing the capital. We think we will continue to progressively move into that area, you know, with retained earnings.
I think net debt as at the end of June is 74 million. And whilst we've got some CapEx planned over these next couple of years, we feel really comfortable with what we've done. And we've just reconfirmed our banking arrangements with all 6 banks for a facility that's around 505 million. And I think if
they'd had their way, they would have given us close to $1 billion, which we don't need, of course. So why pay them any more money than we have to?
Okay. Oh, yes, down here.
Robert Keane. Firstly, I would just like to thank all of the directors, management, and all of the employees of Mainfreight for such an outstanding financial performance over the last 12 months. And I think it's not only just in New Zealand, but also Australia, Asia, the Americas, and Europe. So fantastic. A couple of questions for Don Braid, please. I just note in the last year's report there's been an incredible uplift in revenue in the Asia region, and would you be able to comment on sort of what divisions that covers? And my second question is the impaired debtors as at 31st of March, the lion's lick of that was just over $4 million out of a 4.6 million provision. Can you just add some commentary around the makeup of those impaired debtors by division and by region, please? Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. I knew Tim Williams was turning up here, who's our CFO for some reason. Look, I think our revenue growth in Asia is a little bit to do with the inflated sea freight and air freight revenues. You know, to stand up an air freight charter, you pay $1 million, 500 when you book it, 500,000 when wheels are up. So, you know, those sorts of things have increased the revenue flows. What we've been really happy about, and it's perhaps a little difficult to see in the numbers, but we've increased our Southeast Asian performance, and we've gained more market share, what we call in-country, or in the air and ocean term, freehand freight. But we have also won a lot more business around the world, which is controlled in those other countries. And I still don't believe that the analyst community and perhaps the shareholders appreciate just how good we are going in Asia, because those revenues are generated and reported in those other countries, because that's where the freight's being paid. So Asia is going pretty well right now, and we expect more from it. You know, what we've said to them, if you're in Vietnam or in Singapore or Thailand or Malaysia, they're countries bigger than New Zealand. We expect you to make more money than what we make in New Zealand, so get on with it. And they're trying really hard, but we're coming from a long way back. But we're really happy with where we're going. In terms of impaired debtors, 4 million over 3.5 billion of sales. So that's companies that haven't paid us that we've had to write that off. And frankly, you know, during COVID, it was one of the things that really bothered us, was that a lot of our customers might not be capable of paying us. And our team's really focused on cash collection. And actually, we're far better at collecting cash now because of that than what we were pre-COVID. So we've learnt new lessons, new ways of doing things, and a new appreciation for making sure we've got good cash flow. So, you know, we wouldn't want to write anything off, but 4 million, I think, is relatively healthy. Tim, have you got anything you'd want to add to that?
We have a real effort to collect our debt at branch level, and with the COVID situation, we really pushed that hard, even with our sales teams when they had to work from home. So they got a new skill set, and it's, you know, set us up really well for the future. So whilst our revenue grew 15% I think in the year, our bad debts or doubtful debts stayed fairly static through that period. So that was just improved cash collections.
I'm a small shareholder. Unfortunately, I wish I wasn't a small shareholder. But and I should have known that when illustrious chairman was in a skiffle group, I should have backed him a lot bigger than I do back him. Anyway, just a comment to Don, actually. Don, in your sustainability segment in your talk to us, you mentioned hydrogen power. And I was interested in that because I spoke to my Toyota dealer only last week, and I've been buying Toyota vehicles for quite some time. I've currently got a hybrid. And I asked him, when are you guys going to come out with an electric vehicle? And he said, we're not. We're going to go into hydrogen. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we're all getting the same sort of answer from Toyota. There being no further discussion, we'll continue with the next matter of business, which become formalities perhaps. We'll now move on to the resolutions to be considered today. Each of the resolutions is an ordinary resolution required to be passed by a simple majority, being more than 50% of the eligible votes cast. The board holds discretionary proxies in respect of the resolutions as shown on the screen behind me. With respect to Resolution 1, re-election of myself, Bruce Plested, 51,830 shares. With respect to Resolution 2, re-election of Richard Prebble, 57,280 shares. With respect to Resolution 3, authorising the directors to fix the fees and expenses of the auditors, 55,772 shares. Your board supports all of these resolutions and intends to vote these shares in favour of each resolution. Voting at today's meeting will be by way of poll after all three resolutions have been introduced to the meeting. There will be an opportunity to ask questions on or speak to each resolution. I also ask that in the interests of fairness to all shareholders attending this meeting, anyone wishing to speak to a resolution be concise and considerate to other shareholders who may also wish to ask questions. So please state your name. We'll now proceed. In accordance with the NZX listing rules and the company's constitution, Mr. Richard Prebble and myself, Bruce Plested, retire by rotation and being eligible are available for re-election. You've heard enough from me now, so I'll now hand the meeting over to Don Braid.
Thank you, Bruce. Ladies and gentlemen, the Board of Mainfreight fully supports the re-election of Bruce Plested. As the founder, he continues to play an integral role in our journey. His values and philosophy continue to inspire, challenge and motivate us. The phone calls are still 2 or 3 a day, I might add. The principles the company were founded on were the catalyst for our unique culture, which continues to attract team members, customers and shareholders alike. Bruce has served as chairman since 2001 and is not considered by the board to be an independent director. Thank you. Is there any discussion on the resolution?
Yes, hello, I'm Beryl Plummer. I'm the New Zealand Shareholders Association representative at this meeting and also a shareholder and have been for many years. First of all, congratulations on another stellar result. But as you know, the Shareholders Association have some questions about the board composition and in particular the risk management and succession planning for the board. So while we're supporting the resolutions today, we do wonder if you could give us a little bit more information about your future plans to sort of allay any fears around risk management and succession planning there.
Thank you. Would you like that from Bruce or from me?
You could both do it.
Well, I mean, firstly, we had a good meeting, I thought, with the Shareholders Association. And I understand what you mean by risk. But in some respects, there's a risk on the other side too. And if we change this board wholeheartedly just for the sake of ticking another box, I think you got more risk. We are definitely on the lookout for directors. It took us a long time, as I said earlier in the presentation, to find Kate. And we found Sue. My personal view is that a board composition of 6 directors works really well for us. Pre-COVID, we travelled a lot. And unfortunately, with post-COVID, that's not on our agenda at this point in time, but it will be again. And it means we need to move the board around the world to see our operations. So certainly, as far as board composition, it continues to challenge us. Bruce and I would talk about it regularly, and we would also be, and probably in some cases unbeknown to them, thinking about individuals that we meet or see on our journeys, and consider whether they fit the board composition of Mainfreight. So it's not lost on us, and we will continue to do that. And when we find the appropriate person, then we'll take the decisions that are required.
I'd like to speak in support of you, Bruce. I liked your chairman's report in the annual report. I like the way you think. I believe you wrote it yourself because I've seen your previous reports and it's all in keeping. And the fact that you seem very clear about your role on the board, you're a founding shareholder, and don't you go yet.
Thank you. As a former international road transporter in the UK to France, Europe and everything, we used to have a saying. My transport manager used to say, if it's not broken, Pete, why fix it?
Thank you, Peter. Okay, so there being no further discussion, we'll now move to the next resolution. I'll hand the meeting back to Bruce.
Thank you, Don, and thank you for that vote of confidence. The Board of Mainfreight fully supports the re-election of Richard Prebble. Richard is a long-standing director of Mainfreight. He's considered by the board to be an independent director. Richard has a wealth of experience that benefits us. He is by profession a lawyer and has a wide knowledge of freight and supply chains gained during his service as a member of New Zealand's Parliament, and his portfolios of transport, railways and civil aviation. I'll now hand over to Richard to say a few words.
Thanks, Bruce. It's against the rules in Parliament to speak when you're sitting down, so I still need to stand up. And yes, I relish the opportunity to say a few words to you as a fellow shareholder of this wonderful company. One of the restrictions that you have as a director of a public company, and quite a proper restriction, is that we are not allowed to speak about the company except at occasions like this. If I'd been able to speak to my fellow shareholders 15 months ago, when some were panicking and dumping our stock, I would have said, don't do it. But I wasn't allowed to. But if you think about a pandemic and what sort of transport model you need to handle it, Mainfreight is what you would put together. We have an intelligent network that is capable of self-repairing and responding to challenges, even when the head office is confined to New Zealand. It was absolutely predictable 15 months ago that we would have these satisfactory results today. And why is that? Well, look, in the 4 decades and a bit that this company has been operating, we have run into a number of economic shocks. We've come through a number of recessions. Every time we have hit a recession, we have come out of it a better company, a leaner company, and with more market share, which is exactly what we have reported to you today. Now, why am I telling you this message? Because you were smart and held on to your shares, And the reason I'm saying it to you is it's absolutely predictable there will be future economic shocks. We're not even out of the pandemic yet. And what I am saying to you is, don't panic. We have an intelligent network. They will handle that crisis, whatever it is, and they will come out of it stronger. And since the matter has been raised here today, let me make to you a comment about succession. One of the strengths of having a decentralised company is a way to look about Mainfreight is we're a practical MBA course. Our managers are learning as branch managers where they have great autonomy, how to manage a branch, how to manage the team, how to become the best salesman for their branch, and as they move up through the system, they have unparalleled knowledge. We just recently made an appointment to a very, very important position in Mainfreight, and that is the new country manager for the United States. Now, that manager will be handling an organisation larger than many companies registered on the New Zealand Stock Exchange. What I'm delighted about is not just the calibre of the candidate that we appointed, but the calibre of the candidates who put their names up for that position. We have a succession plan in Mainfreight that is at least 300 strong. The future of this company is excellent. The road in front of us, as Don has mentioned, is enormous, and we're on a 100-year journey, and should you re-elect me, I'll be delighted to serve you. Thank you.
Is there any discussion on the motion? There being no discussion, we'll now move to the next resolution. Resolution 3. This is going very well. I've been doing a dry July. I'm looking forward to tonight. The last item on the agenda is to authorise the directors to fix the fees and expenses of the auditor for the ensuing year. Is there any discussion on that resolution? There being no discussion, that concludes the agenda items. We'll now vote on the tabled resolutions by way of the poll. Shareholders, you are entitled to vote, and proxies who have discretion as to how they vote will have received a proxy voting form prior to the meeting or have been issued with a form when they registered on arrival at the meeting. If you submitted a proxy prior to the meeting, you do not need to complete another now. If you do not have a form, please go to the Computershare desk at the entrance where their representatives will be able to assist you. After voting, Computershare will collect your proxy voting form in one of their ballot boxes, which Computershare will bring around. Please ensure you sign the form before placing your form in the ballot box. General business. We will attempt to have the votes counted as quickly as possible, and I hope to be able to announce whether the resolutions have been passed before you leave. Otherwise, the results of the poll will be advised by way of a release to the Stock Exchange tomorrow morning. Are there any other matters shareholders would like to discuss before I declare the meeting closed? Looks pretty good. No?
My name is Steve Lasblom. I currently work at NZ Post overnights, hustling freight. The ladies ask me, Steve, why do you work at NZ Post? I said, it's really simple. I get paid to train. I get paid to move freight. Mainfreight, I'm lucky enough to know how it was started, why it was started. I'd like to thank Don and Bruce personally for the culture that they've built in this company and this country. Mainfreight leads the world. There's not a country in the world I haven't been to, and I'm lucky enough to have travelled because of motorsport, where someone doesn't ask me about the blue Mainfreight jacket that I wear in the winner's circle. I want to thank the company. I want to thank every director. I want to thank all the shareholders. And I issued a global challenge several months ago that the shares will go over $100 a share very shortly. When I came home in 2017, they were at 25. Thank you, team. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Paul Muir, shareholder.
Yep.
I probably should have asked earlier, who are the auditors and do you have a policy of rotation?
No, we don't have a policy of rotation. We have had the same auditors, EY, for a number of years. We scrutinise what they do. We question the way they do it. They are global, and correct me if I'm wrong, Don, they do our audit worldwide. If we don't feel satisfied with them, we would seek somebody else, but we have been satisfied to this point. They're just a bit expensive, that's all. Just in case they're here. Sorry? Yes, the audit partner is rotated so that while you're still with the same company, you have different leaders of the audit.
Steve Pellaret, shareholder. In hindsight, I wonder if you could let us know, with the abstaining from spending the capital in the previous 12 months and pushing those projects forward, has that factored into a big gain in costs?
Are you talking about the capital expense?
Sorry, the capital expense, yeah. Has that increased your initial figures by delaying the spending?
Oh, I see. It only delayed it by 6 or 7 months until we came to grips with the COVID situation. I don't think that it has altered our plans at all. It's just slightly delayed us. Does that answer the question?
Thank you. Yep.
Ross Colson, shareholder. Don said earlier that you're at this stage you're not really looking at hydrogen energy. I think you might find it's going to be closer than you think. I saw an interview the other day with Lord Banford of JCB, where he said to convert a 20-tonne excavator to electricity takes 8 tonnes of battery, and then you have a massive downtime. So they've built their own hydrogen energy and got an excavator going. It sounds like a petrol engine, looks like a steam engine because the byproduct is water. The other day, Contact and Meridian come out looking for expressions of interest to build a hydrogen plant in Southland to sort of take up when Tiwai Point disappears. In Australia, Fortis Metals are building a hydrogen plant and are looking to build a steel plant with hydrogen energy to create green steel. The big thing around it is the infrastructure, and it's not that hard. You can transport hydrogen down the same pipelines you use for gas or petrol. And when it comes to fueling up, it's like a diesel or a petrol car. You just plug it in, pump it in. So you could do that at current service stations, just another Bowser. So are you looking closer at it, and are you looking at getting together with other parties to push the governments to give the legislation? I know Aussie's working on legislation at the moment to bring hydrogen forward as an alternative energy.
In my personal experience, there's no way that we would ignore anything, but we are not getting much in the way of seeing genuine progress with hydrogen at this point. And so we're looking at electric vehicles. As you heard us say, that wonderful truck out the front, it's really only good for a bit over 100 kilometres a day. So that obviously is not the complete solution. We're not sure how we will ever get long distance electric vehicles, but who knows, we might. We are just very, very interested observers of electric and hydrogen, yeah, but without having made a commitment. Does that answer the question? Any more questions? Yep.
Just a quick one. I'm quite ignorant about hydrocarbon. I don't know a lot about it, but I did read one article how it can be dangerous, explosive in certain circumstances. Does anybody know about that? It can be sparked off? Yeah. That's what I read in the New Zealand Herald once. Can anyone clarify that? Because that would be very dangerous for transport.
I mean, petrol is dangerous to move as any number of things, and the transport industry usually finds a way of transporting it, or it moves through pipelines and so on. But you know, there's no way in the world that I'm an authority on hydrogen. Yeah.
This is the problem. There's probably a lot about it that we don't know. So I think it's quite wise that you don't move quickly on it. Leave your options open. Try some out. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We'll keep our options open. Okie doke.
Yeah.
Yes.
Michael Bowden, shareholder. Can you tell us the total aggregate dividend that was paid to shareholders in the last financial year?
I think it's 75 cents, isn't it?
No, the total amount in dollars.
76 million.
It was 74 million, I think. 76 million.
Okay.
It's 101 million shares on issue at 75 cents.
Yes. 76 million.
Okay. I note that 44, or nearly 44 million, was paid in bonuses.
Yes.
That seems quite a lot compared to the 70-odd million that was paid to the owners of the company.
I've always wondered if we would get that question. The whole point of the bonus is to make more profit, not less. And so we think that our bonus system plus all the other ways in which we run the business results in good profits. It actually gives us some of the best return. You know, our total return for the last 21 years is 25% every year. That's compounding. And it does include the dividend. A growth company that is capital hungry tends to have to get or the shareholders get their wealth by the gross growth of the share, and we all know how much the shares have grown, which is the 25% each year for 21 years. 25 years, okay. That's near enough to the best return on the share market. It is not near enough. Yeah. And we would not get that sort of return if we were paying, if we did not have our bonus scheme. We're so sincere and strong about that. Good question. Okay.
Sorry, second question. Would the company entertain the idea of a dividend reinvestment scheme? So instead of receiving dividends in cash, we could have them paid out by way of increased shares in the company?
We could consider that, but we have rejected the, giving it terribly serious thought. It's a costly and messy business for us to do it. Why don't you just take your dividend and go and buy a share? It's just sort of that simple. Companies who do that are generally needing more money all the time, and we are not needing the money like that. We just have to suggest that you buy shares with your dividend.
I suppose I'm just being mean and don't want to have to pay the brokerage fees.
That's fair enough. Okay, Dr. Peter Tillman, who's from Christchurch in the front here, would like to say a few words.
I've travelled overseas. I've come up here from Christchurch. We've had some wonderful speeches here today, and I thank you, Don, Bruce, and the team, and everybody for the special people, a very, very special company. As you can see, I'm wearing the colours of my company, and I wish you'd been the chairman, sir, and told those bloody, French people in 1968 that the students should not strike and trap all our vehicles in France. That's called education, I think. You've got to write about education. Don mentioned vaccination. As I am after a failure in the transport business, I went into medicine, and I'm an 82% vaccination man. And there's a slogan which we haven't seen yet: elimination equals 100% vaccination. And I'm so pleased that the company is going ahead with it. Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
Peter.
luck for the next years.
Thank you. How are Computer Share getting on? No comment? No more questions? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I declare dry July. Sorry. No. That concludes the formalities, and I declare this 26th annual meeting closed. We now invite you to join the directors and some of our Mainfreight team members for refreshments. Ka kite anō.